This is episode 6, and up to now, basically, we saw together most of the theory behind all the modeling we will have to do. You saw the most useful tools, and we just discovered some ways to use them. But now we will actually start doing proper projects, and I want to take it really slow, or at least not lose you with the first exercise. So I decided that we will go for this super simple shape. I mean, it looks simple, but I think there is some interesting concepts behind it in terms of modeling and how to do it the best way. And so we will go from this exercise to more advanced ones so that you can understand new techniques and get more knowledge and also learn the process of modeling from scratch. So you should be able to find this folder in the folder you downloaded with the courses. So let's go into it, and there I placed some references for the 4 different exercises we will do of modeling. So here it's the first exercise, and you can find 3 images. In this case, 3 images is way enough. You can see it's just a simple straw with a fork. And before we jump to Blender, let's just try to analyze a bit the shape we want to make here. In this case, I will not actually bring any images into Blender because I would like to show you that it's not the purpose of the course, like, or at least the episode. Here we really want to just experiment with the techniques we just saw already, discover new modifiers, and just get slowly the process of how to make things. But I really want you to see, like, yeah, with this super simple example, how to do it just by eye, and I think it's a good way to do it. So let's analyze the shape. The tricky part here is obviously the fork part, because the rest is just a cylinder. And so here what we will do is actually start from a cylinder so that we don't have to try to make a round. It will already be perfectly round. And then we'll try to morph it, and we will mainly use extrude and yeah, adding some knife cut here and there so that we have a nicer topology. So this will be actually a good way to talk about topology and some good things that you should always try to do. Also, for the thickness of it, I will show you another modifier that is super helpful and basically will always put a thickness on top of what you do, which means that we can just focus on getting the shape right, and yeah, we don't have to care about the thickness, which can be a pain, knowing that if you do it by hand, then most of the time the thickness changes whenever you do some changes somewhere, and with curvatures and everything, it's really a pain. So yeah, we will start from a cylinder and we will create this shape and add this modifier I told you about. Sounds exciting. Let's jump on in Blender now. Back in Blender. So as we said, we don't want the cube, so let's just remove it. And this is actually something that you will do probably a lot, like starting by opening Blender, seeing this beautiful default cube, deleting it, and sometimes adding it back. But yeah, you will see it became kind of a meme in the Blender community. But for now, what we know is that we don't want a cube, but we want to do Shift A and add a cylinder. And before you click anywhere else, please let me show you something. I will just disable the screencast. Perfect. And this little something I want to show you is a really cool feature that you have in Blender, and with most of the functions down there in the bottom left corner, you have this little window that you can expand, and here you have a lot of tweaks to operate on the latest function you just did. And in this case, you are able to change a lot of things about the cylinder that you just created, like the number of vertices or the size, etc. And this is exactly what we need, because we obviously don't need the do the 32 edges defining this cube. Like, this would be way too much, and the rule in modeling is basically that you want the least control possible, but as much as it's necessary, you know, like you want enough control to define your surfaces, but you don't want too much, otherwise you will mess with your reflection and surfaces. So here, let's go down to 8. I like to use 8 with cylinders. Usually I go for 8 or 12, even when I do cars, and mainly because every edges are facing each other, which is not the case if you go for 7 or any other not even number. And also because it's easy to actually get only quads from this distribution. Like, you can just connect those two edges, faces, and connect those two edges, and you get like 4 quads closing your cylinder, which is super convenient. And there is some kind of repetitive thing, like there is a symmetry here, like 1/4 of the thing can be symmetrized to get the whole shape, which I really like, and it will be super useful for what we want to do here. So yeah, let's go for 8, and now it's time to tweak other things. The cap, we don't need one, so let's just press nothing. And the depth, we probably don't want a straw fork that is 2 meters long, so let's just go down, 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 down. And actually, let's put a value. And from the picture, it looks like it's around 20 centimeters, so we can write 20 and centimeters. This is a great thing about Blender. You can input like different values that are not just meters. You don't have to think about where do I put the zeros and stuff and do the conversion. You can just write the unit you want. And this also works with other units. For example, for the radius, let's say I want 1 inch. I just write 1 in and boom. It converts it directly to inches. But in this case, I want even less than 1 inch. So let's just scale it down. And as you can see, the step is a bit too big. Like this is still a bit too big for a straw. And I cannot really get under without, I cannot get the right step. And there is obviously a way to do that in Blender, and it happens with every slider that you can find. And it's just that if you press Shift and then you drag the slider, then you get a much more precise way to do things. It's actually called precision mode. And so we can go down to something like that. Probably something like that. Actually, I will change the value here for 36 or 40. You can always do it by hand. Yeah, this looks better to me, at least. And I did this exercise already, and I didn't really like to work in top view, so let's just rotate it. And you remember what I told you with the vehicles and the Y0? Here we will not really care about that and stay in the Blender coordinate system. So let's just rotate in the X-axis, and let's put 90 degrees. Yep. Perfect. So here we are. We have our straw. It's still a bit wide. Yeah, sorry. Just it's cool that you can. Oops. It's cool that you can tweak those. So let's just take advantage of it. Yep. Perfect. So we have the base of our straw, and now if you click somewhere else, this window will disappear and you won't be able to do those changes anymore. So yeah, let's just make sure that we have everything we need. Probably. Perfect. So let's jump on the next step. So next step here will be to actually put the basic modifier, and by that I mean obviously the mirror modifier. So we want to remove half of it, but as you know, if we just do the selection like this, we don't get the points behind. So let's just make everything good and activate the X-ray, put it to the maximum, go back to the top view, and delete those points. Perfect. So we have a beautiful half straw that we are going to mirror. Wow, look at that. Already there almost. So I put 20 centimeter as the overall length, but this included the tip. So I have to leave some more space for the tip, and to do that I will just do double G to slide my vertices and go around there probably. Then in side view I will be extruding just the lower part, because as you can see on the pictures, this part is curved. The part of this that is joining the straw and the fork is curved on the top, and we will basically do that with those points here. And so these will be the one that create the fork, and these will be the one that create the help the transition. So let's just extrude those, and we don't want to extrude them freely, so let's do it on the y-axis. And we probably want the gizmo to make it even longer. And for now, as I told you, we will not use the subdivision surface, but we will just play with the proportions. And what we need to do now is to flatten and widen this tip. So we don't want to mess with the cylinder here, like at all. So this we will never actually touch, or we will do everything we can to protect. And so the thing we need to do here is to add some more geometry just on the tip part. We have some kind of transition in the middle, as you can see on the images. And now we can start taking those points to make the thing wider. We don't want it too wide though, and we actually want to taper a bit in the end. Perfect. We check on the pictures if we have the right proportions, and it looks like it's quite fine. Perfect. So, as I told you, those top points will help us do the transition, so let's just slide them in the back. And here what you want to avoid is S's, so I will show you that. If you didn't move this point in the y-axis, you can see that from some view you get super weird feelings, especially there. And if we get something like there, we will have nicer curvature. Basically you want to have some kind of 3/4 view where everything aligns in a nice way. But this will come also with subdivision. Anyway, I think it's not too bad for now. So the next step will be to make things a bit more even here. And what you have to understand here is basically this will be one spoke and this will be another one, and same with the mirror. So this one will probably go a bit back as well as this one, because we have this kind of curvature feeling in the final product. So one way to do the spokes will be to actually define the gaps between them, and to do so we will use the bevel. So Control B, and here we can decide how big the gap will be. If we check on the pictures, the gap is basically in between half of the spoke width and one third, 2/3 proportion between the gap and the spoke. So let's just find an in between knowing that the central one will still get a gap on this side. So I think this is good. We can anyway slide things around. The good thing is Blender is that there is nothing that is actually really definitive. You can always tweak stuff up to the last minute. And for the other one, let's just do a cut. Sorry, let's just go in top view first so that we have a nicer cut. Let's do cut. And as we can see down there, we can have some like help. For example, C is angle constraints. So if we click there and then press C, you can see that we have a kind of snapping. So let's just go up to this one and then we intersect here and press enter. Perfect. So now it's time to remove what we have in the gaps. So edge and vertex. And we can see that it's not super even. So this is something we have to tweak now, just by moving things around until we find a good enough proportion. Doesn't seem too bad, does it? Okay, so there is a lot of issues in the topology, and we will talk about this because I hate when there is some kind of 5-point faces. I could be fine with triangles in some areas, but this is really not acceptable. So I will show you some tricks to actually define a shape a nice way, and we will add the subdivision right now, and you will see some other problems that we will want to fix. But at least proportion-wise, we are fairly good. So let's go in modifiers, subdivision surface, and this doesn't look right at all. So first thing, we go to 2. Oh, I forgot the clipping in the mirror modifier, which is quite important. And we want to shade it smooth, as you know. And we can see that a lot of things are completely wrong, especially what happens like this tapering out is completely wrong. And this is because the only thing that protects kind of the shape of this cylinder is this row of points, and we want a bit more. So let's just add a loop cut and let's bring it just there. So basically all of these lines, all of these points are completely aligned, and this will ensure that whatever happens behind this will stay as we want it. You kind of do this frontier to make sure that nothing goes too far. So yeah, this is already a good thing to do at the beginning. Also, we can see that what we expected from this shape is not really right, and so we have to take it back there a bit so that the curvature is nicer. And I like to keep things as aligned as possible, so just tweak it simply so that it works. A good way to do that is actually to select the whole edge loop and to do S, Y, and 0. This will make a perfectly aligned edge loop, and it's kind of what we need right now because we just want to, yeah, again, protect what happens behind it. We don't want the subdiv to grow in this area. So okay, cool. Now we can see other problems. For example, the tips. Tips are completely wrong because again the subdivision is eating too much of it. Let's put one more level of subdivision and let's add some edge loop. This is because of the merge in the mirror, so before I actually move it, let me just add 1 0 there so that we are free from this. And let's slide up to here, I would say. Maybe it's too much. You always have to keep an eye on the references. go back and forth. And actually we don't have too much of this angle, so let me correct that. We mainly want the curvature between the spokes, but not in the spokes. So let's fix that quickly. We can do the SY0 again, just for those. Okay, cool. So tips are better, but now we have kind of a mess there. And one thing I like to do, and I will show you actually another thing, is that since we have just super simple geometry here, it's completely flat, then we get this kind of weird feeling, because here we have some nice curve and it has to grow to actually become completely flat, and this is not right at all. And this is just a topology problem. You could think like, I just need that much geometry to define my my spokes, but actually you want some more to have better control on it. So what I like to do, kind of a rule that I always use, is that I like to protect every important line with a row of faces. So let me show you what I mean by that. Is that I take the knife and I start to cut. We can use C again. I start to cut things. I will show you why I'm not connecting them there. We don't need the C anymore. And I just do, again, protection line around the important lines. For now we will just do it up to here, and we will see how we manage things later on. Perfect. Now we want to connect those to create quads. You could do that with a knife, but I like to use the J, which just joins points, and it works really well. So once you have that, first of all, you protect what happens inside and what happens on the edge of your object, but also you can give a slight bit of curvature by just taking those points and pushing them slightly, really slightly, and probably more in the middle actually. We don't want to go too far, otherwise this will look like it's going inside. You can see that we have this problem here, like I don't see the whole model. This is called clipping, and you can fix that in the side panels there. If you don't have them, you have to press N, and so you can go to view, and then you have clip start and clip end. So we want the clip start to be even closer, so up. If you just add 1 0, then you have to be really close to actually have this problem. So perfect. Can make the panel disappear with N, and let's go back to work. So we do the same here. Oh, as you can see, we have a double edge, so let's just merge them at centers. It would be enough. So let's take those and move them. It's even worse than that. We actually have an edge hidden. It's a lot of problems, and you can think that the modeling process is just messy, but actually this happens all the time, and I think it's better if we encounter a lot of these problems rather than just showing you how to do it perfectly with super simple steps. Like I'm basically understanding the best way to model it as I go, so I think it's better for you to understand the process. So here we can see that we have this edge and we don't want it, so let's just dissolve it so that these points actually has a meaning in the topology that we have. And so now it's time to fix those two wrong big surfaces. So you have to basically analyze and see what would make sense, because you always want things to flow. For example, if we do Control R, you can see that all around our spoke there is a nice flow. The edge loop is logical and goes there by its own, which is really good. And we would like this flow not to stop there, but to continue. And we have also a nice flow here on those faces, but maybe we could actually link this flow with the flow of these spokes, so that then after the mirror it just goes back to the other one. That could be perfect. So let's just select this point and press J, sorry. And now you can see that the flow is going from the straw to the spokes of the fork, and this is really good. And at the same time, we removed the 5-edge face to get some quads. Here we just remove this edge because we don't want it. And we have the other one to fix, and we can probably do it the same way. We just do that and J. The problem that we are creating here is actually that we have a 6-spoke star, and although you cannot really avoid those stars, sometimes you want to optimize them, and I would never go for a 6. It's whether a 3 or a 5, and this we will talk about later. But basically, if you take a cube, you will see that you have a star of 3 edges connected instead of 4. Okay, we have 2 problems by doing that. Is that, as you can see, surfacing looks completely wrong. And to emphasize that, I'm going to use some viewport shading tweaks. So instead of using the studio lighting, I want to use the madcap, which is basically a selection of shading modes. And I want to see my reflections here, so I probably want to go with maybe the zebra. I can see that there is something completely wrong in the way the reflections are happening there. So it's hard to work with zebra, so let's go for something a bit more simple. And let's just fix that. So I want also to add some more definition here, so there is probably a move to do that will help me fix everything at the same time. So let's just add a cut here, from there to there, with C, enter. As you can see, I'm getting more definition, and I will correct this a bit later, but I know that I will need more definition for these curves and for this one, which I can do in just one loop cut. So I will do that later on. For now, I want to correct this. And actually, a way to do it is to delete or dissolve this edge, slide this one, and you can see that here I have so let's connect this point to this point with J, and now we can see that we have a super nice flow with our loop cuts. So it's perfect. But the question is now, how do we do for the next ones? So first thing I want to do is to delete this edge because I probably don't need it, and it will give me a better view on what we have. And if we analyze the situation, we know that we don't want this curvature to look that tight, basically. We want it with more definition, so for that we will add this loop cut, and same for the other side, which will on top of that help us getting the right curvature here. But we still have a problem on the back there, as you can see. So let's just connect this one and this one, and now I have a way nicer flow and not discontinued. It's like really nicer. So the more I see it, the more I have a problem with this actually, and I could just remove this edge and have something nicer, but I actually want to delete this triangle. So to do that, I just merge the points together and take those two plus those backward. So I still have the nice flow here, but a different geometry. And this will help me later on. But here I also want to correct the curve that I have, the curvature that I have there. So let's just add one. And you can see that it's merging automatically. This is because of the merge setting there. So let's just make it lower. It's basically saying like when you're at 1/10 of a millimeter close, then you can merge things together. So we shouldn't have any problem now. And we can just bring it like here, make this a bit straighter, and do the same on the other side. Correct that. And as you can see, we also got a nicer curvature here that we probably want to correct so that it's even better. Nice. And yeah, at least I prefer how it's going there. I prefer this kind of control on the curvature. The problem is that we have the symmetry here, so we have to kind of mimic the way the curvature is behaving just by moving the points. Not so bad. And what I see as an obvious way to do things is to connect this flow here and this one there, and I can do that just by connecting those points. The problem here is that I'm creating some pinch, as you can see. To emphasize this, I will show you some visualization, like shading tools. And basically, if you go in the viewport shading menu, you can change the lighting type. You can have flat, which basically will show you one color for the object. It can be useful if you want to do some Photoshop or stuff like that. You can use Studio by default with different kind of lightings, as well as matte caps. And matte caps can be super useful. It's basically a selection of different shaders that will let you emphasize one particularity. For example, the reflection can be checked with the zebra, and we can clearly see here that although these middle ones are flowing nicely, we are having kind of a break or a weird thing in the reflection here. I will just put 3 levels of subdivision to see it nicely. But yeah, so this will be the thing we will want to correct here. So let's use another matte cap. I like to go with this one. It's fairly nice, or the black one is not bad at all. Yeah, let's just see how we can correct that. So one of the reason it's doing that, it's because of the twist of the surfaces. As you can see, between those 4 points, we have a twist. The surface is not just flat. And so what we can do to help is already pushing this a bit. But also what we want to fix is this triangle here that shouldn't exist at all. And to do that, if we keep in mind the idea of having nice flow, we have to find a way to get this edge loop, this face loop, this flow, to actually go somewhere and not just end there. And what I see as a possibility is to add some more control here in this face, so that on top of getting a nicer flow, we could also control the curvature here better. So let's just do that. So to do it, I could use Control R, but then I would get in there and I would have to merge quite a lot of points. So let's just do it with a knife. Yep. Like this and like that. And now we just have to delete this one. And we already have something a bit nicer. Let's check with the zebra. But we still have this kind of flatter area here and more curved there. But at least we don't have the weird break that we used to have. And so now we will try to bring some more curvature in the center. We probably have to move those like this. Make them a bit flatter so that the control points are more aligned with the shape, and also pushing this down a bit so that it becomes flatter as well. Basically distributing the points in a way that flows nicely. Here you can see that this thing is because of this weird reflection is because of this point that is too low. Let me just go with another matcap so we can move all this row. Yep. It's already nicer, and there is still some weird reflections there, but at least the topology makes sense, and this is the most important to me. At least it's like if the topology is right, then things will be way easier to work with, and finding the precise position of the different points is not the trickiest part. Okay, let me just show you now how to add thickness so that we can get a better appreciation of the shapes, and then let's fix it and let's make it really nicer. I think the spokes are not long enough, so let me just do that. And so the modifier I was talking about is called solidify. So if you add a solidify modifier, you can see that we have a thickness which is right now way too big. But if you do shift and slide down, then you can get to something nicer. 1 millimeter look quite okay actually, like we're quite close to that. Maybe we have to go slightly lower, like let's try 0.8. Yep. Better. And this time we want to put it before the subdivision so that we get smoother edges. But at the same time now it's too smooth, and a way to fix that is the bevel modifier. So let me just make those smaller and add a bevel. We can see that it's making it's emphasizing the faces. It's because of the position, so let's just put it above. Can give a nice look. That's a way to reinterpret the shape, but we want to put the weight limit method and to select like all of this edge loop and give in item some more bevel weight. Let's just add one segment, and now we can see that the shape is way nicer. We probably want to go even smaller with the bevel actually. Yeah, perfect. Cool. And we have the same there, as you can see. So let's just select that, add some bevel. Nice. Okay. So overall we have the shape and the topology is there, but now we have just to tweak things. Like as you can see, the curvature here is not really good. There is a better continuity on the original one, so let's just fix that, probably by pushing those a bit more. Also this one can move a bit without affecting too much the shape. Just creating some lead into the different shapes. This one is twisting a bit because of this. Let's go in orthographic view to see it better. Yeah, you can see that the face here is a bit twisty, so let's make it more parallel. Yeah, that's nicer. Also here, this one is a bit too low and not as flat as the side ones. Probably like that is better. This is usually the part that takes quite a long time, is like tweaking just the positions and fixing the reflections. Here we can see that this tip look bigger, tip of the spoke, so let's just make it a bit smaller. Okay. Okay, nice. And so finally you can see that we have a beautiful straw. And also, although there is a lot of like understanding how you want things to flow together, and this comes with mainly experience, we can also see that we rely a lot on the modifiers. Like basically, if you hide all of those, we're just working on that. This super small, simple shape, super rough. But in the end, all of these modifiers are making it so much nicer and with nice details and everything. But without you having to control everything bit by bit and by hand and everything, like it's super simple and super efficient. I'm just thinking that probably we need to push that a bit. Yeah, let's do it ever so slightly. Okay, so that's it. We have a beautiful fork straw. You can call it as you want. And let's just save it. So let's just call it, I don't know, OD course fork straw and save as. Perfect. Small conclusion, we finally did one model basically of something that we can easily describe as a fork and a straw. Yeah, maybe it's a bit chaotic the way I do things, but it's just that I like to use Blender and the topology to think and not just make things in a super rigid way, because I think that this is how you bring some more emotions, and Blender is quite easy to actually correct when you do something that is not the perfect answer at the beginning. And yeah, I hope that you didn't get lost in this one. It was just to show you how I approach molding for a simple object, so that I'm sure that I don't get you lost. And in the next episode, we will see some more tricks and other situation that requires more objects and more modifiers for sure. And yeah, it will be good. So let's see in the next episode.